Greetings, mind crafters. Little Giovanni go, there he is. Welcome to another Minecraft discussion on this glorious day. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and little Giovanni's around here someplace. We are your host and hostess with the most and mostest on this glorious day. We are still snowshoeing. Why? Because we are in northern Vermont where there is still snow. And there's not really much of a way to walk back in these woods at the tail end of March without snowshoes, so it's all good. It's also a really good workout. It's good for the thighs. So this little Giovanni's getting some good smells up there. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Let's see if you can see him up there. Giovanni, come on. Okay, so today, I was inspired by Abraham Hicks because she was just saying some really intelligent, insightful stuff. It was actually not this morning, but it was I forget, it was yesterday, the day before, not sure. But anyway, what I want to talk about is that rumble strip in the middle of the road of the highway. Some people call it the drunk strip, but it's way more positive to just think of it as waking you up, right? And so this is super metaphorical for life and being in alignment, because I know for me, I strive to be in alignment as much as possible every day and in every way, which means having my authentic self, my most authentic inner self, aligned with, God, source, connection, universe, however you want to call it. And how this also keeps me in the place of deep, intense, rich, joyful meaning and authentic purpose and direction. Clarity is what we're talking about. Clarity, knowing what the next move is, knowing which way to go, and knowing that it's right by how I feel. Okay, so that's alignment. And also, when all that's happening, I'm feeling pretty good in my skin most of the time, right? The high majority. So obviously we can't be in alignment every second of the day, because that would be the perfection P word, which we don't like to use because it's worse than dropping the F-bomb. Here comes a little wind. I'm sure it'll go away. Giovanni loves it though. And so think of being in alignment as, kind of staying in your lane, as they say, and you're clipping along, other cars are doing this and that, and you really know you're going the right direction, right? You know you're going the right direction. And all of a sudden you start to veer a little bit, and you hear that, like in the cars bouncing around, and you're like kind of whoa. I guess I was tired a little bit, and maybe I was just talking. Hopefully you weren't on your cell phone in the car, because that's like a big no-no, right? Let's say you're just chatting, or you were looking at the beautiful scenery and you didn't realize you veered, 6 or 8 inches too far to the left or something. So it's like, reminding us to get back in alignment with the direction we're going, right? The authentic direction we're going, the way to live our best lives, right? And so here's the thing, if we think about the road, the choices are to keep going over the rumble strip, which will then quiet down once you get up and over it. But then you're on the other side of the road, facing oncoming traffic. Not really probably a great option. If you survived that, a lot of people, obviously the drunk driving thing, that does happen to people in reality. And this is actually metaphorical for what we're talking about when we are, not actively engaged in our authentic path and, making the right choices and things like that. I'm not saying it with judgment. I'm saying it with observationally speaking, right? And metaphorically speaking. Okay, so we cross over, but we're not talking about the drunk thing. That's not my whole point. Okay, so crossing the rumble, and then it gets quieter, but potentially dangerous, right? We're way out of our lane, out of alignment, not heading the right way, which is not good for our relationships, our health, physical, mental, spiritual, none of it, because we're not in alignment. We're not, our innermost being is not going the right way, right? And so if you did survive the oncoming traffic, metaphorically speaking, then you're just in a ditch, right? Or a guardrail. You're in a ditch or a guardrail. And so that rumble strip thing we're talking about is contrast. And so we don't always like contrast because, we don't like when we have somebody give us, snark that kind of pushes us the other way, or we didn't get the promotion we wanted, and when we were sure we were going to get it, and then somebody else ended up getting it instead, or the rug got pulled out from under us for whatever reason, or it's social, or some curveball life threw us, right? And it presents us with contrast. Maybe we thought this job was going to last forever, and as it turns out, it isn't. They're laying off people. Now, I got like 2 weeks left and I got to figure it out. Whatever it is, whatever it is, or its relationship ended prematurely or whatever. Okay. So then the contrast is that rumble strip. And so we can sort of work with it and get ourselves back in alignment, or we can not acknowledge it and cross over into the danger zone, with, going against really what we're meant to be doing. Right. And so, so another thing, okay, so the contrast, which we don't, it's a very tough sell to get people to embrace contrast, especially when they're actually in it. But when we look back at the contrast in retrospect, as I say, hindsight's 20/20 in retrospect, right? We can pretty plainly see usually that even as painful, excruciating as that relationship ending was, now you're with, your favorite partner ever, or maybe you're even married and who knows, or, that job that you were, thought you really liked and what you were growing from, maybe you were, maybe it was all good and then there were layoffs. Well, now you dipped into your own business and you're loving life. You got making more money and more free time to be with the partner and the kids or yourself or whoever. When we look back, it's great. When we're in it, not so much, right? So here's the thing. When the rumble strip representing the contrast, responding, getting back in line, right, is that contrast always precedes expansion. It just does, because that contrast of what is, what was, what will be is kind of huge. And so we are constantly expanding and heading for our next move. And that contrast or rumble strip is kind of necessary for that to happen, even though it can be challenging in that moment. So really what this whole episode is about is just trying to maybe take a step back mentally, distance ourselves, because when we do that, when we have contrast, and instead of digging our claws in and getting all resistant and making it all blow up and be worse, we can actually just take a step back. And as far as my rumble strip example, hear it and get back in the lane, going forward, going the right direction. When we sort of back up from the rumble strip or back up from the contrast without resistance, just acknowledging, whoa, I wasn't going the right way. Oh, this is making me think of something that I could be or should be doing, whatever. When we acknowledge the rumble strip or the contrast, this gives us clarity, and clarity is what we're after. Clarity is huge. This is how we really can hear our innermost being and our very next move, which will have us on, just the path of joy, right? Just the abundance track, and that is what we're talking about. So this whole thing is about being mindful of the rumble strip and, believe it or not, grateful. Tough sell when we're in it, but when we look back, I know I can think of my rumble strips in the past, and I'm grateful for every single one of them. Again, tough sell in the moment because you can't fast forward to the future. When you look back, it all comes together. The dots all connect. So that's it. This is Kimberly Quinn and Little Giovanni signing off from the Notch at Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.